What's up, bro? It's your boy Mike Muse. Welcome to the episode of the Mike Muse Show. I'm so excited to be in conversation with my next guest. I have been following this young man's career for some time now, and I've always been fascinated about him. I've always been curious to kind of learn his story. I think his career is very interesting. I think the music he produces is out of this world. And so I couldn't have a better time to bring in my next guest, DJ, producer, artist, entrepreneur, Steve Aoki. What's happening, brother?
Hey, what's up, Mike? How you doing?
Pretty good. That's a cool chair you got. You big gamer, I know.
Yeah, yep.
Do those things really work, Steve? They really help with the back support and
Yeah, it actually I really need back support. So I mean, I even sit on this like soft. I even sit on this like little soft thing here. It's super soft. I put
yeah.
it right here, and like it doesn't. I don't know. I've been told it helps. That definitely makes me feel a lot better. It doesn't hurt my back. Yeah, these are
So
nice.
in
I mean,
Vegas, they don't have the windows, so you can't tell me what time it is, right? They're always like feeding you with like lots of liquor, so you're not thinking about how much money you're spending. These gaming chairs, does it make you want to game longer versus sitting in a
uh,
traditional chair? Do you think it
yeah.
has
I
any
mean,
placebo effect
it
associated with it?
it definitely feels like you're a captain in it, you feel
Yeah,
like you're in command, you're ready to conquer, you're ready to take over.
yeah,
I like it. I like, I like the mental about it too. For me, it's like even my studio. I remember when I was building out my studio and like, it's about the acoustics first, of course, but you want to feel like you're doing something extra. You want to transport yourself into a different place. When you sit down in this chair, I want to feel like mentally, whether it's placebo or not, that I'm going to take over. So you just
yeah.
invest in those things for your own mind to like get you to that next plateau, right?
But now I'm curious because you talked about construction of your studio. I've always been curious about how you construct a song. So, right, so I'm going to let you know how I listen to music first, right? So the reason why I love DJs and producers. So I'm a weird kind of host, Steve.
You got it.
Most
Yeah.
people love talking to actors, right? Like I prefer the director, right? Like because the director has control, of the film. The director has an understanding of where they want to take the direction of the storyline and the screenplay that has been written. And so they have command of the ecosystem or the universe, right? Where the actor just kind of controls their character and storyline, right? And so I'm always interested in the construction of things, the anatomy. I know you're a sociology major and a feminist, which I find wildly fascinating. And so when I listen to music, I listen to the beat first. And sometimes I won't even catch what the lyrics are until like a week later. And I'm like, oh, that's what this song is saying, right? So it's beat first. And then the second is a vibe. And I'm like, okay, what kind of vibe is this, right? And then the third way I listen to it at that point, then I listen to the lyrics, right? And so, how do you construct a song as a producer?
I mean, everything's case by case. It's like
Mhm.
every song has its own DNA code. Obviously, like the process of how I go into writing a melody is going to be similar, or coming up with my drum programming is going to be somewhat similar. But whether I'm doing a collaboration with a K-pop group or whether I'm doing a Latin record or an EDM
Yeah.
full blown EDM record or a remix, it's like I whatever tools in front of me I have, then I
Mhm.
can, and also what its intention is,
That's
like
more
just
what I'm
like a
curious about. Not like the construction of the song. I'm sorry, but like, are you thinking about like what's the vibe? Let me get into a mood and I
yeah,
feel the
yeah,
vibe
exactly.
first. Like, yeah.
Yeah, the like I have so many different intentions, like I would say the two lanes that I go down, and most DJs can follow me on this. One is doing something for the listener, right? Making a great song. It doesn't have to be this heavy drop that it's more rhythmic that is going to work for my shows or work for other DJs, and you want it to be charting, and you get the gain the respect of DJs. That's a different lane, right? Because you have to in that lane actually requires even a little bit more time because you have to one up your own sound design and production and level up enough where other DJs go, "Whoa, I gotta play that one." And I mean, that means you have to recreate the wheel. You got to tune up that wheel even
Yeah.
further. Sometimes recreate a whole new wheel of sound. because it's like always like about like showboating for your friends, right? So you have that, and then the other is just making a record that's is going to do well across the board,
Mhm.
and write its own path, and like, which is the goal. The goal is that
Yeah.
like the song that you make is not no longer it's not no longer a Steve Aoki song. It's just like its own pathway, and I've had the opportunity to be in that lane with a few records where it's got its own. It's like you created a robot, a self-aware robot, and now it's just living its own life. It's just having a baby.
Yeah.
It's living its own life. You're like, it's 19 now, and I don't have to worry about him, worry about my kid anymore. And you're like, you're just proud of them doing their own thing, you know.
Yeah.
So
Well,
yeah,
you
I mean,
mentioned the
just
two lay. Yeah. I think intentionality is so key. And I love that you use the word intentionality because sometimes you don't think about, producers and DJs creating with intentionality. Sometimes they think it's just kind of maybe they're driving down the car one day and then they discover something, right? But I love the use of the word intentionality, and then you get the end product. That leads me to a different thought process because one of my most memorable experiences I had living in New York City, I'm still here in New York City, was going to one of your raves on the piers in New York City. And when I tell you my mind was blown, it's one thing to see it like on YouTube or viral videos or anywhere out there on the internet, but to see you in person, man, and to see the way the crowd reacts. I had the opportunity to be on the stage. And I was looked out in the crowd, and that was your cake throwing days. And I was just like, what is happening? Like, as soon as you start getting near the outer rings of the pier, you just felt this energy, right? And so as I got closer, the energy got stronger. And then I was literally sitting in the nexus of your space, relatively speaking, and I just felt was all this incoming. How do you absorb that energy? Like, just as a spectator and a bystander who was in the moment, I know I felt all kind of emotions. Like, what are you feeling in that moment, being in that vortex?
Oh, the feeling is by far the most extraordinary emotional, just complete undertaking my whole body, that I feel, in my life, period. Which is why I do it so much. Like I've been touring two 200 to 250 shows a year, 200 to 300 shows a year for 15 years straight. I never ever went below that. Um, and obviously I don't need to tour as much. I do it because I love it. I love exactly how you explain it, and you do it so wonderfully. I love how you explain that vortex, because it is a vortex. It's like we're once we're in, we kind of lock ourselves in, and we're like, okay, we're gonna go on our own ride. And my job is to give them an experience that they'll never forget, and also make sure it's a Steve Aoki experience. I want people leaving, and they might not remember the songs I played 15 years later, but they'll be like, "Yo, I remember that show. It was unbelievable. It was a lot of fun." And also my friend got caked. And that just doesn't
Yeah.
happen anywhere else. You know what I mean? Like, I was eating
Yeah.
the cake off my friend's face. It doesn't happen anywhere. The raft came out, and like my other friend jumped in the raft, and people were just like going crazy. So I have so many different responsibilities, one musical, one giving them this kind of unique experience, that sensory, and I want to engage with the fans, like
Yeah.
um of course, like I'm controlling the music, but I need to be out there. I want to like jump in there with them, and like sometimes I do. So it's the best feeling in the world, which is why I love doing it, and I miss it so much. And
Yeah. Can imagine.
like going back to the first thing you talked about, that like these kinds of shows, you can't just play records that you make for the listening side, right?
Hmm.
Every single record that I play at my show is chopped up, it's edited, it's got a it's got a remix to it that I made just for my shows, you know. So I work almost like, okay, I have a big record, I got to make two different versions of it now. One
Yeah.
for the public, and one VIP that's just for my
Hmm.
shows, could give it that extra oomph that's specific to the show. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
It's
there's like,
transformative. There's this
right.
transformativeness that occurs from it, and that's, to me, that's the power of music, right? Music is energy, right? And they say energy can never be created or destroyed, right? It's this transfer. It's like the crowd is feeding you, you're feeding the crowd, and so
Yes. Yeah.
there's this
Yeah.
exchange that is happening. Your sociology degree, so my audience knows I love social constructs and love pulling back narratives, and I think that there's certain things that make people really great at being great at it is what they do. Sociology is a study of people in societal and social constructs. Are you thinking about that dynamic, like knowing what people want, knowing what people need, knowing what moves people, knowing music is energy? Are you thinking about some of that stuff as you are thinking about your music curation?
I think it's all subconscious at this point. Maybe like in the beginning, it was more like I need to, yeah, of course, like I even do that in the studio. Like I need to see where this is going, how this is going to affect this crowd, and that's why we test things out. Like
Yeah.
like almost live. Like, all right, and I'll almost like to tell the audience, I'm like, guys, this is so brand new. I just finished it yesterday. We're gonna test it out. I want your reaction is gonna judge how I'm gonna go back in the studio and tweak this before it's finalized. Don't record this.
Yeah.
Like I do that all the time. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that love that I'm tweaking it there. I call my shows like it's like my laboratory,
Yeah.
like especially Las Vegas where I live. It's like my club. I've said it many times. It's my lab. I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna
Yeah.
test some stuff out because we got to keep tweaking it till the final product. And
Yeah.
people enjoy that process too.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna play out. I'm not gonna play out like a version one that's just awful. Like, it has to feel like,
Yeah.
yo, this is playable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yes, I
See, I
mean,
have two. I have two questions because unfortunately,
yeah.
I would love to talk with you longer. Hopefully, you'll come back on. We'll have a little bit more time to talk. So I have to be selfish right now because I love that song on your new album, 60 Ki, Incoming, right? And there's something about the introductions of the horns that just gets me, right? Like I used to be a drum major for my marching bands. I'm a big band geek, right? And so that big horn beginning, talk to me if you can selfishly, just entertain me. Now I'm a fan. I'm no longer a host for right now. How did you think about Incoming, right? Like when you were creating that, how did that one
Okay.
come about?
That one was made 2 stories below here in my house, at the Neon Future Cave, my studio, and it's all about the melody first. So that bum 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 ba
Yeah.
da 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 da
Yeah.
da
Oh
da
yeah.
da da. So the melody is important. It's just a MIDI. It's just notes that, like, we apply sound the horn later. So
Mhm.
once me and Gammer, we came up with that melody. We're writing it all out, and we're painting it out in our DAW, and it takes time. We made like probably 15 different melodies, and then, like, I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the one. We go back to that one. This melody is definitely, it's triumphant. It's something that you just come out there with your chest out high. Now we need a sound that can actually resonate that feeling. And that's exactly what you just said, is exactly the point I want to make, is that it's not necessarily about EDM. You hear that, you're like, let's go. You know what I mean? With that big horn sound. And then you got to find the horn sound. You got to find that brass sound that's just gonna like get you off, like wake you up in a way that you haven't been woken up before.
Yeah.
Brass for me is a go-to. Boneless, one of my biggest records, is a brass, it's a brass
Yes.
driven record. Like I
Yes.
love brass. I use
Same.
brass
Yeah.
instruments all the time. So that one's just
Yes.
like, it just gives you that punch, and that
Yeah.
melody is so catchy. And then you just throw the kick underneath and the side chain and make that pump, and you just can't
Yes.
help, even if you don't listen to EDM, you're like, I get it.
Literally.
You know, I get you. You understand why people are like jumping around. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
it's like a morning routine now for me to watch and listen to incoming, right? Like it just gets you going and gets you started. But I think that's why I connect with you so well is how you construct, and maybe even why I connect with incoming so well, because how I told you how I listen to music, it's beat first, but then when I said it's a vibe, it's really the melody that I'm looking for, right? Like
yeah,
what's the melody of a song? Like how's
yeah.
it go? So for you to have focus on melody with incoming, really, that's probably why I connect with it so strong. Okay, one more selfish question before I open it up from what I'm sure my audience is curious about. Tell me about when you guys know when to do that drop. There's something about that break in the music, and then like the crowd just erupts. Like it's like we can kind of feel it coming, and then we still like just erupt in that
Right.
moment. Like talk to us about the drop and the moment of the drop and the importance of a drop and when it can be overused, not overused. Like if you can, just indulge me for this the significance of
Absolutely.
the placing of the drop.
Well, this is once again, just like you said, this is best experienced in a live setting. Like
Yeah.
you could hear it on your headphones and like you'll get it because it's like blasting in your head, or you can hear it in your house or wherever you are. But when you feel it with a lot of other people, and we're all on a ride, we're all on a ride of tension, emotions. It is a bit of psychology. When you're a DJ, you're playing psychology with the people in front of you, and it's up to you to be the to rise attention up, to bring them up. And that's what the music does. That's what the drums do. That's what like all the sound effects do. And they keep rising you up, just like when you're watching a film and the tension's going and you hear like, the strings going. It's like, and it's just like building you can't help it. Your heart rate's exploding because it's just what you're hearing and what you're feeling and when you're around everybody else. And right when the drop, that's why everyone goes to these shows. That's why
That's
everyone goes
it.
to these festivals is to have that emotional roller coaster of that moment and that release and that tension, just that explosion, right when you're about to, if you're about to run and you just jump right off the mark on 3, 2, 1, go. When you hear that buzzer
Yeah.
go, it's that same feeling of we're going as hard as we can. And once you let yourself out like that, then that's why you're there. That's why you go.
Yes.
That's why people go to Ultra religiously.
Yes.
They get tattoos of
Yes.
Tomorrowland. They go to the festivals and they live for the festivals because they want that feeling. And the drop is that release. The drop
It
is that
is.
feeling of complete unadulteration of emotional it's a Super Saiyan Dragon Ball moment of just wow, like we all
Yes.
want that. We all
Yes.
want to explode with our emotions and feel validated by everybody else. We're not like
Yeah.
some crazy guy in the corner, like in your office space, like throwing your desk around. But at a show, you
Yeah.
could do that, and everyone's like, "I get you, you get me. We all understand this. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
anyone thinks." That's why I always love to see like the fans in the crowd. They just don't care anymore. Makeup's like all over the place on girls. They're sweating. They're just like, they're just like, I don't care. I'm like, you're my people. You are my
Yes.
people. This is why I do
Yeah.
what I do.
Bruh. Like that's why, like when I think about like EDM and I think about like house music, 'cause I'm from the Midwest, right? So I think about like Chicago house,
Absolutely.
Detroit
Yeah.
house. When I think about
Yes.
EDM, to me, there's a a spiritual aspect to it, right? That release that you're talking about. So not only are we waiting for that drop, but there is a release, like this spiritual release that's happening. And when I'm dancing normally like to like that, the soulful house, right? And that type of house
Yeah,
music,
absolutely. Yeah.
I get lost, right? And then
Yeah.
when you really, when the vibe is good and you're in a room or a space or wherever you may be, you actually see people not in a trance, not in a spooky kind of way, but you just see people that's releasing and letting go, right? And I think that's the energy of music. Again, we keep coming back to energy. The energy of the music just transforms you, and you let go of any inhibition you may have. You let go of how you may think you're being perceived, right? Like you're no longer thinking about any of that. Like your body is just moving to the rhythm of the energy that is guiding you. And that's the power of it. I remember, Steve, I was at the Coachella, and they had a tent, a special section, for the EDM, and it was interesting how I kept going back in there periodically throughout the day, right? It was almost like to get my hit, right? So it was like, just go get your
Yeah.
hit because it's
Yeah.
enclosed, it's dark, it's the lights, right? I'll get my vibe, get my hit, my drug, my adrenaline, and then I can go back out and walk around and then go listen to
Absolutely.
some of the other stages. But I think that's the hit that we're talking about. Steve Aoki, I want to go further. Time has run out. I got to have you come back on the Mike Muse Show, man. There's some other lanes and areas I want to go with you. Hopefully, you'll come back again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to talk to you. It was a lot of fun. And I'm
Yeah,
glad you were at that Pure show. We got to do another one.
yeah, bruh. Like Steve, I never do this. I never ever do this with my guests, bro. But the next time you have a live show, man, I have to be there on stage just for incoming, and then I'll leave after incoming. Right? I just
I'm
have
gonna
to be
call
there
you
for
out.
that
Like,
moment. Yeah, I have to be there for that moment. But before I forget, ladies and gentlemen, Steve Aoki is also, I'm a fan, but he's also now a colleague. Steve Aoki now has a channel right here on Sirius XM Radio. It just launched. So you can get more of his sounds if you're not familiar with him, or you want to learn more about these drops that we're talking about. You want to learn about this
exactly.
energy. I couldn't think of a better guide for you, a better Sherpa than Steve Aoki to do that. So Steve, like, where can people find your channel? What's the number? Tell us about the vibe.
It's Remix Radio, so it's an entire channel based on remixes, and that's the core of what we do. I've been talking to series about doing this for a long time, and it's taken a while to set up, as you know, how the infrastructure setting up. A
Yeah.
show is already big, but now we have a whole channel, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, strictly on remix culture.
Ah,
And I mean, it's the foundation of what I do, what we do, DJs, producers, in all, if you're a DJ, it doesn't matter if you're hip hop, if you're rock, if you're pop, if you're, EDM and house, whatnot, remixes is what we play. So we're
yeah.
going across the board on remixes, and we're going to surprise you with a lot of exclusives. And I mean, I've been working on it for quite some time. The Remix Radio Sirius XM number, I don't have that right now.
They'll find it. Listeners, go
They'll
ahead and
find
find
it.
it.
You guys
We'll
find
post
it.
it later. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
there.
Post it
Trust
up.
us. It's there. Yeah,
It's
trust us. It's
there.
there.
It's there. Remix
Ladies and
Radio.
gentlemen, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a fantastic show. Thank you for joining the Mike New Show. As always, I'll talk to you soon and see you next week. Yo, Steve,
Thank
that
you.
was amazing, bro. Thank you, man. That was so
Thanks,
awesome.
Mike.
So I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike.
Okay, take care. Bye bye.